now on to our third talk. The speaker is Olivier Parent, and the title of this talk is Gendered Lifestyles as a Data-Driven Spectrum, Associations with Brain and Body Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Olivier Parent, and I'll present my talk titled Gendered Lifestyles as a Data-Driven Spectrum, Associations with Brain and Body Health. And before I start, I really want to emphasize that this was really highly collaborative work with two amazing undergraduate students, Maria McGuinness and Sophia Osborne. So I'm really happy to be the one presenting on all of our behalf today. I have no disclosures. So just to clean up some of the nomenclature I'll be using, I'll be referring to sex really as the chromosomal sex, so more males and females. And I'll refer to gender as the more socio-cultural aspects of gendered behaviors. And gender encompasses many different dimensions, and while a lot of us think of gender as mostly gender identity, which is the self-identification as a man, woman, or other, here I'll be mostly talking about the other dimensions of gender, so gender roles, gender relations, and institutionalized gender. So this talk is not about gender identity directly. So gendered lifestyles can be seen as a spectrum because each of us embody the cultural definitions of masculine and feminine traits to different degrees. However, it's hard to define what are feminine and masculine traits. So in popular culture, and according to this online blog, feminine traits include being more emotional, nurturing, and humble, while masculine traits include being more brave, dominant, and independent. And so I think it's pretty easy to see how the study of gender can be really prone to biases and stereotypes. And specifically when doing an a priori determination of what are masculine and feminine traits, there's a high risk to maybe perpetuate preconceived ideas. These traits might not apply to all cultures the same, and they might change over time. And so basically there is a high need for an unbiased and data-driven approach to quantify gender on a continuous spectrum. So while there are many known sex differences in disease prevalence, with two examples here, the impacts of gendered behaviors on brain and body health have remained largely unexplored, mostly due to this difficulty in operationalizing gender in scientific research. So here, the secret sauce to my gender algorithm is to train a machine learning algorithm to predict sex from an array of lifestyle variables. And so, however, the algorithm will never be perfect because some females will always show a more masculine lifestyle behaviors, and some males will always show a more feminine lifestyle behaviors. And so here we posit that the sex classification predicted probability captures the overall gendered lifestyle of each individual. And so, for example, if the algorithm predicts with 75% probability that you are a man based on your lifestyle, we interpret that as meaning that your lifestyle itself is 75% masculine. And so by doing this approach, which is really similar to the kind of biological age paradigms or brain age, we can get this gendered lifestyle spectrum. We applied this framework to UK Biobank. There was 4 time points that we used. So we used the time point 0, which had about 300,000 participants, to look at the associations between our gendered lifestyle spectrum and medical diagnoses. And we used the second time point, which has about 36,000 people, to look at the associations with brain MRI phenotypes. The best algorithm and set of hyperparameters were automatically determined with an AutoML framework, and the best algorithm was a CAT boost algorithm. We trained the final models using 5-fold cross-validation, and what we coined the Index of Gendered Lifestyles, or IGL, is the out-of-fold sex classification probability. And as you can see from these raw curves over here, the accuracy is very high, so the algorithm reconstructed a lot of signal in the lifestyle variables. Here we can see the IGL, or the gendered lifestyle distributions by sex. And so this is pretty much exactly what you would expect out of a gender spectrum. So most females show a more feminine lifestyle, and most males show a more masculine lifestyle. However, there's always going to be these long tails in the distribution showing the variance in gendered behaviors in this data set. And also note that I'll use this color scale throughout the presentation. So sex will be encoded with dark blue for males and dark red for females. And this gender spectrum has the light blue to light pink spectrum. Also important to note that all analyses from now on are going to be sex stratified in order to disentangle the effects of sex and gender. So by looking at the variable importance plot, we can see what does the algorithm consider to be masculine and feminine traits. So here, masculine behaviors, including more higher bread and processed meat intake, higher alcohol intake frequency, more vigorous activity, more tobacco smoking behavior, a higher number of lifestyle sexual partners, and a longer work week. While feminine behaviors, including more water and raw vegetable intake, more moderate activity instead of vigorous activity, being more able to confine, having a higher frequency of friends and family visits, and being a family and home caretaker. So then we looked at the associations with brain health. So first, looking at just very broad summary brain volume measures, we see significant associations for female for total brain volume. These are also normalized for brain size, important to note. And so we see that females with a more masculine lifestyle have, on average, smaller total brain volume than females with a feminine lifestyle. And for gray matter volume, this was significant for both males and females. So again, a masculine lifestyle being associated with smaller gray matter volume, and where there was no effect for white matter volume. To look at where these effects were more specifically located, we looked at relative Jacobians. So here we can see that the significant pattern was more widespread in females. We see that females with a more masculine lifestyle had an expansion of the posterior ventricles, while females with a more feminine lifestyle had bigger subcortical brain areas, including a lot of limbic structures. Then for cortical morphology, we see in both males and females that a feminine lifestyle is associated with larger cortical thickness, but in slightly different regions in males and females. And we see that for surface area, that males with a more masculine lifestyle show expanded surface area in a lot of these, in a lot of regions, including somatomotor and some of these like default mode network regions. This was not the case in females. Lastly, we looked at associations with medical diagnoses. So here in this pretty big plot, I show a Manhattan plot. I show all the associations with gender to all diagnoses in UK Biobank. And so again, the blue dots are the associations that reach significant for males, and the red dots for females. And there's a lot of information here, so I'll just go through a few examples individually. So first, we see an associations with masculine lifestyle being associated with higher odds of having a tobacco use disorder, the diagnosis, which makes sense because tobacco smoking behavior was more masculine lifestyle behavior. Similarly for alcohol use disorder, which again makes sense because alcohol intake was more masculine. Then we see a really interesting effect for schizophrenia, where basically more masculine females and more feminine males in their lifestyles have a higher odds ratio of having a schizophrenia diagnosis with pretty big effect sizes. And so one of the possible reasons for that is maybe that as people have schizophrenia or psychosis, they may lose touch with reality, which may make them less susceptible to the social pressure to conform to gender norms. Then we see a sex-specific effect with males with a more feminine lifestyle having higher odds of having a depressive episode diagnosis, and very similar effect for anxiety disorders. So this could be because of sleep difficulties, because sleep difficulties was a more feminine lifestyle behavior, or it could be that males with a feminine lifestyle were more prone to report emotional difficulties. Then we see that females with a more masculine lifestyle have a higher odds of having a type 2 diabetes diagnosis, but not males. And this could be because of the specific kind of diet pattern that we see that was more masculine, including bread, processed meat intake, and cereal intake. Lastly, we see an effect for masculine lifestyle being associated with higher odds of having a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease in both males and females, which again makes sense with the smoking behavior being more masculine. So now a few take-home messages. With our approach, we're really able to derive this unbiased and data-driven definition of a gender spectrum. And this crucially enables the large-scale investigation of gender dynamics by researchers in various fields. So taking their study of gender from this relatively niche field to hopefully the broader scientific community. It's important to note that the gender behaviors and their gender dynamics I presented today are really going to be specific to the sociocultural context of UK Biobank in this case, but it would be interesting to look at different data sets and compare. Then, with this data, we uncovered the brain and body health implications of gendered lifestyles, and this crucially improves our understanding of how gendered sociocultural dynamics shape disease risk. We also see an interesting trend where the reported sex differences in health could be exacerbated by the sociocultural kind of gendered lifestyles that we see, because a lot of the directionality of the gender effects were in the same direction as the sex differences. Yeah, I would like to thank all my lab, again, especially Maria Beginis and Sophia Osborne for their close collaboration. And yeah, thank you again for your attention.
We have a minute for some questions. I have one from the app here while people are coming to the microphone. Given that the UK is a multi-ethnic nation with different classes that may influence gendered behavior, how do you account for this?
So we didn't necessarily account for this prospectively, but we did look at the kind of like ethnicity differences in the gendered behaviors, and we do see ethnic differences. Specifically, so I think, like, if I remember correctly, Asian males showed on average like slightly more feminine lifestyle, and Black women showed on average slightly more masculine lifestyle than the rest. But I think this could be due because of a bias, because 95% of the UK Biobank is male, so that's the bulk of the training data, and so it might just be like a lack of fitting for these more like minority groups.
I'm wondering if you did a qualitative check of the features you input into the model, because I saw that being retired is associated with masculine, for example, and employed with females, but that could also mean something like males are just more old in this sample.
Oh yeah, so I forgot to mention, we corrected for age for all the downstream analysis, but there's a slight difference in age. I wouldn't expect that would be like a big driver of like the kind of variable importance as we see for being retired. But yeah, I could check definitely if men retire more early on average than women in the UK Biobank. That's a good point. Thank you.
Okay, for the sake of time, we need to move on, but there are many questions that I will hold until the end. So for now, let's thank the speaker.